Have you ever had an addiction? Yes, I've had several.
Jada Pinkett Smith opens up about her struggles with addiction.
I'm hoping that it will give people the freedom also in their lives to find their truth.
The 46-year-old actress got extremely candid on the latest episode of her hit Facebook Watch series, Red Table Talk, where she revealed her addiction to sex.
My sort of addictions jump. They jump around. When I was young, I definitely think I had a sex addiction of some kind. Yes, that everything could be fixed by sex.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Or
It's the
thing.
behavior.
It's the behavior that's attached to it. Because if you want to have a lot of sex, that's great. But why are you having all that sex? That's what you got to look at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Here to Help You. My TCN TV. Did I say it right? TCN TV network? I did say it right. So, today, I have a lovely guest who I'm going to introduce. She's actually supposed to be in the first segment, but we're like, we're not going to follow the script.
Not today.
And I'm very honored to have a young lady who will be joining us and actually joining the team soon on my TCN TV network. Her show is going to be called The Elephant Room, and I thought it was appropriate to bring her on today because the topic that we are discussing today are going to be topics that you'll be seeing more of on her show. And her show is going to be Friday at 4 o'clock, yes?
That's right.
4 o'clock p.m. right here on my TCN TV network. I would like to introduce to our viewers and to the world, Miss L.A.Wade. Big up yourself, girl.
Big up, big up.
So, when this topic first came up, and when I realized I had to do this show, initially I was going to do it by myself. But then I was like,
Why you want to be vulnerable all by yourself?
yeah, and who best to like do this topic with than you? Because you and I have had discussions about this.
Sure.
And I think it's a topic that we're going to be speaking about this more on the female side, even though the topic that we're discussing is usually something that is seen or deemed as a male problem. Mm-hmm. It is not just a male problem. It is a person problem. It is a trauma issue, and it's something that happens to all people. So today we are going to go right in on sexual addiction. We're going to be doing we're talking about the miseducation, first of all, of sexual addiction, and we're going to be bringing to light certain things that I think people really need to know about it. I'm happy that LA is here because she's going to be sharing some of her personal experience. We're going to be going back and forth. She's going to share what she wants to. And if you guys do have questions, obviously throw them in the comments. I've told some people to call in, so the number's above us there, 647-931-4701 with no spectacles. I saw that. Boy. Wow. Thanks, Dave. Throw that up there. So call us in, and if you have any thoughts. But when I first jumped into this topic, LA, I noticed that there's a lot of men. So they threw some, I looked up famous celebrities. They gave me Eric Benet, Kanye West, Tiger Woods, really? And Amy Winehouse, and of course, Miss Jada Pinkett Smith, as you guys saw. So one of the things that, before we go into it, so I'm going to define it, but why do you think they highlight men so much when it comes to sexual addictions?
Because our community likes predictability, and it is so that it makes sense in the eyes of our social mores that men are the perpetrators, men are the one that can't keep it in their pants, all of those other cliches that coincide with the male existence. We put a lot of pressure on the men to be perfect people, but the fact of the matter is we all suffer from this.
We do all suffer. So I want to spend this first segment, we're going to be picking LA's brain more in the second, third, and fourth segment. But this one, I really wanted to clarify what sexual addiction is and why this is such an important topic. So the definition for sexual addiction, other words that they use to describe sexual addiction are sexual compulsivity, hypersexuality, and problematic sexual behavior. So sexual addiction is the lack of control of some sexual behavior or relationship. Perhaps the most helpful definition is a practical one. sexual or relational behavior that has a negative impact on someone's life, like all addictions do.
Yeah, I like that last one.
So do I.
Especially.
Yeah, the relational behavior that has negative effect, because it does.
It wreaks
tears,
havoc.
Tears apart families.
But you know what? It confuses you because sex feels good. Yeah. And so we can justify things that feel good. It's like, oh, I ate the whole tub of ice cream. How did that get there?
But you're a food addict.
Right.
Feels good, but it's
great.
not good for you, right?
Yeah, especially after.
Yeah, it's always the after. So, Mr. Rankin. Oh, by the way, oh my goodness.
How?
I know. So you guys are wondering why LA is here beside me today, because Rankin is behind the cameras today. So you guys, big up yourself, Rankin. Big up yourself. Say hi, Rankin, so people can hear you.
No.
Thank you. That was great. That was excellent. Thank you, Dave, for being part of the community. So, all right, let's look at the 4-component model of what comprises an addict or an addiction. So there's 4 things that make someone an addict. So compulsivity. So this is the loss of control over a behavior. An addict continues in the behavior or relationship despite of repeated attempts to stop. Continuation. So there's a continuation of this addictive behavior despite the negative consequences. That's a big one.
Huge.
That's a big one. It's still doing this behavior knowing that nothing's ever good has come out of it.
Right.
But we continue it. And most addicts will do that.
Yeah.
Preoccupation. So there's an obsession with the act of behavior. People are going to say, well, who's not obsessed with sex? Oh, people who would be considered normal are not obsessed with sex, right?
Well, yeah.
Whatever normal
is.
Right? And then there's a tolerance issue. So more of the same behavior or an escalation of progressive behavior is required to get the same high. So that one's also very interesting when we're talking about sexual addictions.
Yes, I can illuminate there from my own personal
experience. Please do.
So when I'm feeling the anxiety or the depression or the flashbacks from the trauma, I sometimes can develop something that I likened, when you hear about people cutting themselves, I reference my sexual addiction as a cutting. So it's like, I need to go get some, I need to cut. That's how that relates to me there.
See, and there's so much more we're going to dig into here. Because I know, and this is the thing, the reason why I brought this powerful woman beside me on is because she is, how do I describe you? Fearless, for one.
Yeah.
And you really don't give up. Ooh. Do they have those sweary things that you put over people's mouths? She don't care. And the reason she doesn't is she realizes that she's gone through certain things because she has to help others.
Yeah.
Right?
Otherwise it's for nothing.
Yeah, and nothing in this world is for nothing. Everything happens for a reason, like they say, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sexual addiction actually isn't about sex at all. It's an intimacy disorder, they said. Okay? So using sexual activity or a relationship in a desperate search for connection, affirmation, or even love. Sex addiction is a coping mechanism, a way to medicate painful feelings, which is what you spoke about. Yes, experiences and memories.
Yes.
So that kind of ties in exactly with what you're saying.
Exactly.
Now with sexual addiction, it's actually an umbrella term for some overlapping behaviors. So let's talk about that. So we're going to talk about the stereotypical sex addict, and this is what most people think about a sex addict. So this is a person who watches a lot of porn. They visit prostitution places, escort houses, strip clubs, massage parlors, and usually are compulsive masturbators. Most people think of sex addicts as being, again, male.
Right.
Right? But women like to masturbate too.
Yeah. Although, okay, I won't go there yet.
No, why not? No,
it's
go
not
there.
time. It's not the right time.
It's not time? Okay, we won't go there. So that's the very first one, the stereotypical sex addict.
Yes.
Then there's the romance addict. So these are more often seen as females. And they're addicted to the intrigue and the pursuit of romance, not necessarily the sex.
Right.
So this kind of addict thrives on the thrill of the chase, but finds it impossible to sustain an intimate, committed relationship.
Right. Hey.
Sorry, we're live everywhere. So that's, and I want to speak about something. I'm going to say hypersexual and hyposexual, and we're going to talk about a little bit in our next segment about what that is. But the stereotypical sex addict is considered hypersexual, and the romance addict is considered hypersexual. And there's a third part, or a third bracket that's considered hypersexual, and that is love or relationship addict. So most recently, Common came out and said that he was a love addict.
I could see that,
Yeah.
When he jumped off of Erica, and then he kept going down like Serena, and just like, what's wrong with you? What's happening here? Let's talk about it.
He's a love addict.
He's a love addict. But
So-
see, how come he was able to talk about it, but like it would be weird if like Exhibit came out and said, "Yo, man, I'm a love addict."
Because Exhibit's like really like,
Too hardcore for love.
well, it's just like how we'd say like, could you see him coming out and saying he's on the down low? Like you just don't
Oh
expect.
Jesus! Could you imagine? Wow,
But listen,
it's happened. Yeah.
there's some of these big browly men you see are, that's a completely different
Yeah,
like,
that's a different topic.
That
I
might
do
be
that
elephant
sometimes.
room.
All of it is.
Being on the
That's
down
all
low. So
elephant room.
love and relationships, talk about that really briefly. So this affects both men and women. So that was interesting to find out. And the main dynamic is the belief that the particular relationship that they enter into is the one. So that partner, whoever they meet, it's like they might be the one. When they're-
I suffer from this.
See, this is why I thought you'd find this one interesting,
God,
right?
it's so bad. So bad.
Relationship addicts repeatedly become involved in intense, enmeshed, codependent relationships. And that word right there we're going to talk about.
So mean.
Even when those partners or relationships are destructive. So these relationships may be emotional affairs as well as physical and sexual ones. One way of thinking about the relationship addict is to view him or her as a ultimate codependent.
That's
Okay?
me.
So
Guilty.
I'm not gonna let me do this one before we go to our break. So we're gonna go to a break, but I just wanna, we were talking about hypersexual, and I'm gonna talk about hyposexual. So this is another component of sexual disorders, and it's called sexual anorexia. So this is hypo, which means, well, the word anorexia means you don't want food or you don't want something. So with this, you don't want sex. So the opposite
I
of
don't get either of those, by the way. I'm just saying.
I'm not laughing at people's pain here,
No.
but I get it.
No,
because
yeah.
again, it's hyper or hypo, and we're gonna go into that a little bit more. So the opposite of acting out is to act in, which is also known as sexual anorexia. So these individuals have an aversion to sex and intimate relationships. They spend lots of energy trying to avoid sex, even within a marriage. If the person is single, she or he may avoid dating, especially if it progresses or they think it's going to progress into some type of relationship. Now, here's a tricky thing with sexual anorexia. It's possible to be both acting out and acting in.
Of course.
So
it is.
this one I found interesting. So some people may be anorexic in their sexual relationships with their spouse,
Right.
but be acting out outside. So they're having, in their relationship, they're anorexic, but outside the relationship, they're just like slapping down the place.
So maybe they should be open to like an open relationship.
You see, but try getting people in our community to talk about that on a real note,
Right.
right?
We start uttering the polyamorous thing and
That's a whole
People lose their mind.
nother story. So we're gonna jump into segment 2. This is where we're gonna actually be asking Miss L.A. some personal questions. We're gonna actually also be going into the characteristics that you may see in a sexual addict on part 2 of Here to Help You. See you guys soon.
At Benjamin Law, we understand the real cost of personal injuries. As the victim of an accident, you may be the one who's physically hurt, but your main concern is that your family are the ones who will pay the price. Benjamin Law will be there for you, helping, supporting, and working tirelessly to resolve your personal injury case. Call 1-855-899-4878 or visit benjaminlaw.ca and let our family of lawyers help your family.
And help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome back, everybody. Sorry, I just finished doing my live, so let me just do bing. All right, so you got to share that. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back to Here to Help You.
Hello.
And again, I have the lovely L.A.Wade here with me.
everyone.
Actually, you know what? She came into my life in a really interesting time. It was at the very beginning of the year when I was opening myself up to new relationships and doing new things and growing as a person and in my community. And she's actually my sponsor now. We're going to talk about that later.
Co-sponsors.
Yeah, we're co-sponsors. And we're going to talk about why sponsorship is so important when it comes to addictions, because that needs to be understood as well. So now I want to talk to you a little bit, because we're going to talk about the characteristics, but I want people to hear a little bit about your story. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. And one thing is it difficult for you to discuss this topic?
There was a time that it was difficult. But I recognized very quickly that there were too many young women in the audience that would speak to me afterward that motivated me to keep going and to share more.
Yeah.
Because it's things that people don't speak about, which is what the elephant room is about. And it's just staying inside of our bodies and killing us.
Yeah, and stressing, and then you break out in like hives.
Exactly.
Because you don't want to talk about these things.
Pointing at a hive?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
This is the real. These are things that happens, right? Like
not
stress
good.
affects people in different ways. So
Yes.
at first it was, but now you're able to talk about it a little bit more openly. What has your experience been talking about this with some people in the community?
Well, definitely it's been very, very healing for me. It's a topic that at first I felt that I was more comfortable sharing the idea that, well, I was molested, I was raped. And so these things are justifications in a sense, when really they're reasons. They're not justifications.
Right.
They're reasons. And it's every time I tell the story, it helps me use language that supports me in my healing and in my journey. So it's the framing of the story also.
So how you frame it is different now.
Absolutely. So where I would speak about it originally from a victim's perspective, not that I identify as victim, but I was victimized.
Yes.
And even that little shift changed how I started to feel about it. Having my children and seeing them hit the ages that I was when I was abused helped really put it in perspective for me. It's like where I would internally beat myself up, the hypo thing, because I was young. I wasn't doing it as much then. But seeing my children allowed me to disrupt what I was saying to myself, which is, I'm so bad, I'm this, and that this understanding that there's knowledge around what I'm doing, conscious knowledge that with purposeful thought. When I see a child, there's no way I could have been making purposeful decisions when I was 5, when I was 7, when I was 9, when I was 10.
That's right. It's
Helps.
understanding that, like the fact that, yes, you were victimized, but you're at an age where like some of these things you just didn't know any better. Like, how were you supposed to know what to do at that age?
100%.
Right.
And then where were all the people around me?
We're gonna get into that. That's very, very
I know
important.
You are,
no, we're
you're
gonna
thorough.
get no. That we're gonna, because we talk about betrayal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go there yet. Let me hold on.
Not yet. But yes, that's what it's the reframing.
Why do you think women are so underrepresented? And we talked about this briefly, but do you think women hide this a lot more?
Yes, because it's not men. They talk about wanting a freak in the sheets and a lady in the streets type of thing. And it's like women aren't going to come out and openly be like, yo, I'm a freak. And because that's how they might self-identify their trauma as freakiness. But
you've been traumatized, boo.
Yeah, you're not a freak. You have been traumatized and you need counseling. Therapy is good.
And there's nothing, listen, and it's really coming to terms. There's an understanding, an inner standing.
I love that.
That you've got to have with this, because for years I was acting out and not understanding why.
And it's a process.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's just now me turning 40, I'm like, oh.
The light bulb went off.
Got it now. This is why I was the way I was. And the thing about it too is it happens sometimes. I was very hypersexual in high school.
Hyper?
Right? And that's the worst time.
Definitely.
The absolute, I got called every name in the book, right? Which didn't help.
Yeah, it keeps you isolated. You're alienated from the community of the people that pretend like they're not doing anything. And don't make me go there. And you believe the things that you're telling yourself in your head.
Like I'm terrible, I'm a bad person. And it just kept going.
And there's no mirrors. We look to each other to see our reflections. And when we look at the people who don't admit to the things that they're struggling with, or they project it back onto you as if it's just you. And the psychology of that it dismisses the fact that there are environmental factors that are also helping you see yourself in a particular way. And this is why women will not say that they are addicted to sex. Although there's a new movement, with this homegirl with her slut walk. What's her name again? The blonde, Amber Rose. She did it.
What?
Yeah, they're framing it. They call these things like she had a slut walk.
Time out.
Yeah.
Flag on the play. What?
I'm telling
What's
you.
a slut walk?
You got to Google that. And in the
Why?
next break, we're going to bring up the slut walk,
But
okay?
why do we have to call it that though?
But this is what I'm saying. So women that's the way that they're able to show up and say that they're addicted to sex, is to try to, almost like taking the N-word and creating an empowerment around it. They're taking the word slut and saying, I'm a slut, I can have sex with whoever I want. They're taking it from a perspective of empowerment, which I get, but do we want to call each other the N-word still?
And dude, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
slut is like, again, if I was going back to high school, because these are the type of things like
Exactly.
I would hear. Like,
Exactly.
what were some of the West Indian words?
Ho?
Not just ho. There's some other
Hoochie
ones.
mama?
There's other ones. What are West Indians saying? Dave, can you help me out with this one, please?
Slackness.
Slackness.
Dirty girl. Dirty girl.
Skettel.
Skettle bum.
That's what I remember that word. She's a sket guy. Yo, that girl's a sket, yo.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, when you hear those things, remember, for the longest time, when I heard these things, I really took it on.
Of course, because you didn't have any other mirrors reflecting that that's not just who you are.
That's crazy, though.
It's extremely dangerous.
And
in the developmental stage, that is
Yes.
extremely dangerous.
Because it carried with me for many years until I was able to introspect and understand that what I was because of what had happened to me.
Exactly.
Right? And now, though, I had to figure out how to. So I said this to someone yesterday, and this is why I appreciate you, L.A., because I can't have these conversations with most women.
Because they lie.
And some just don't get it. And they
Yeah.
still want to judge you and look
Judgment.
at you. And even like, I have a friend who I love her dearly, and I wanted to have a conversation with her, and I said to her yesterday, I can't have this conversation with you because you just finished dealing with a situation with your man he's a sex addict.
Okay.
And they're no longer together. But I feel like if I speak to her, she may not necessarily judge me, because I know she wouldn't judge me, but in the back of her head, I feel like there would be some anger there.
Of course.
Because she's coming out of the situation, and it's
Absolutely.
painful.
Absolutely. And what we have to realize is also that being addicted to sex in this society, there's a shame component.
Yes.
And when we feel ashamed, we don't feel empowered.
No.
And so it's difficult to speak about something that we deem shameful in an empowering way, which is why I'm kind of like, I am the elephant in the room saying, hey, I'm not, there's nothing wrong with me. Something happened to me and now I get this other benefit, or not, if it's just like taking over.
Well, I've said that, and I'm going to go over some of the characteristics, but I've said one thing that if I would say I have a regret, it is unfortunate that I'm not able to connect to my sexuality the way that I want to.
Oh, but you can.
I don't know how to yet.
Well, I'll share some of the things that I've done.
Okay, because it's very difficult to connect to that. And I'm almost like, if I was able to choose the time that I interacted sexually with people, I would have that connection. But because I didn't have that choice, it's like,
You didn't have the choice. And, people are very judgmental of adults. But what they don't understand is when people who have been abused in their youthfulness, they don't just jump and become an adult and everything falls away. It's not like the
it
butterfly.
carries with you.
Yeah, you
Absolutely.
are. So I'm just a child stretched into my adulthood that if it's not dealt with in a proper way, there's still all of those aspects in this stretched out adult body.
So a lot of children, a lot of adults so we're kidulting.
Yes, we're kid-alting, what she said. And it helps me anyway. It helps me understand that this is something that came along with me, but I have agency. And this new phase that I'm in is really looking at the difference between cutting the trauma as a result of the trauma and being there for men to take advantage of me, and and now not calling myself a slut, but also working with the empowerment of, I want to understand myself through from the perspective of agency. And how do I feel pleasure and joy in a sexual experience that has nothing to do with my trauma, but I can still enjoy it?
I still have to get there. So before we go into our break, I want to do and take a look at some of the characteristics of co-addicts or sex addicts. And these are things that for you who are watching, who may have some thoughts about your sexuality, pay attention to this. And this may open up a little bit some of the trauma you've dealt with, but it's meant to. This show is meant to make you introspect. So it may not be easy, but I want you to kind of take a look at this. So we're going to go through the characteristics briefly, go into a break and come back and go into some more detail about sexual addiction. So characteristics of co-addicts or sex addicts. Number 1, covering up for the sex addict and keeping secrets. That would be the co-addict.
Right.
Obsessive preoccupation about the sex addict. Denial of reality and ignoring the problem. Emotional turmoil. Manipulation, including using sex to control. Excessive responsibility, blaming yourself for the problems. This is something that co-addicts will do sometimes. Compromise or loss of self.
Oh, God, yes.
Making a constant series of compromises that erode the sense of self.
Yeah.
Blame and punishment, so becoming very self-righteous and punitive. And sexual reactivity, shutting down sexually to numb self-needs. So these are some things you really need to look at as a person who might be living with someone who has sexual addiction. Some things to take into consideration. And when we do come back, we are actually going to go into some research that has been done that actually ties childhood sexual abuse and sexual addiction on your next section of Here to Help You section. Who says that? I don't even say that. Doesn't even sound like me.
Segment?
We'll see. Yeah. We'll see you soon.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
At Benjamin Law, we understand the real cost of personal injuries. As the victim of an accident, you may be the one who's physically hurt, but your main concern is that your family are the ones who will pay the price. Benjamin Law will be there for you, helping, supporting, and working tirelessly to resolve your personal injury case. Call 1-855-899-4878 or visit benjaminlaw.ca and let our family of lawyers help your family.
Just saying. Something's wrong
Welcome
with
back.
Dave.
I know something's wrong with Dave today. I think it's because he's not on the show.
Maybe he needs to develop a sexual addiction.
Yes, Dave, what do you think?
Dave's not talking to us today.
He's not talking to us today at all, but we got to grin. We got to smile. Welcome back, everybody.
I think that's confusion.
So if you're just joining us, I'm here with the lovely, provocative, sexual L.A.Wade.
I like
You like all that, eh?
The sexual, yes.
But she is my co-sponsor because I had to find one.
I tried.
I needed to. But honestly, and we're going to talk about, I'm telling you, we are going to talk about that because you have helped me during times where I could have made some real stupid mistakes and I called you help me.
It was your inner Jenny reaching out.
Help me. So now we're going to start looking at some research because I think it's time that we understand the trauma itself, and I know you'll be able to speak on a lot of this. So
Absolutely.
I'm going to tell you, so the reference for this is from the Center for Sex Offender Management, and the title of it is The Role of the Victim and Victim Advocate in Managing Sex Offenders. So the title of this actual article that I drew some of this information from is called The Traumatic Impact of Child Sexual Abuse, a Conceptualization. David Finkelhor, it's an interesting name.
I got
and
that.
Angela Brown.
I'm
No
all
pun
over
intended.
it.
So let's look at 4 Trauma genetic is what they're called. Trauma genetic, which would be the genesis that started trauma, the dynamics when it comes to sexual addiction, or actually abuse. So there's trauma sexualization, betrayal, powerlessness, and stigmatization. We're going to go over these in as much detail as we have time for, and I'm definitely going to have you elaborate on what you can hear, okay, Ella?
Yeah, because already I can see that.
Some of these, right? Okay,
Well,
let's go over the
let's
first
just talk
one.
about
Pretty
all
much
of
all of them, yeah. So traumatic sexualization. So this is a process in which a child's sexuality, including both feelings and sexual attitudes, is shaped in a developmentally inappropriate and interpersonally dysfunctional fashion as a result of sexual abuse. So traumatic sexualization can occur when a child is repeatedly regarded by an offender for sexual behavior that is inappropriate to his or her level of development, okay? So we're talking about anyone under the age of, I would say 16, 17 years old, maybe even 18. We could push it to 18,
We could.
right?
You could vote when you're 18. You should
Right.
know.
So you should know what to do and if you can do it.
Right.
Right. 14, no. 12, definitely not. 9 or 10.
But at those ages are some of the more advanced abuses that I suffered, and I really thought that I was in control of myself when I think back to how I was acting out at that time. And West Indian parents, God love them, but my mom would be the first one, God love you, Mom, but she's the first one saying things like, "You're slack. You're the one," and I'm thinking, how is an 11-year-old slack?
And you know what? Honestly, so that's the betrayal component.
Yeah,
So I want you to hold on to that for a
Okay,
second,
I'm gonna
because
hold
I
it.
do want you to speak on that. Because I thought of you when I saw the betrayal part. I was like, because you have shared with me, and I was like, I wonder what she's gonna think about this part of it.
Yeah.
So it occurs through the exchange of affection, attention, privileges, and gifts for sexual behavior, so that a child learns to use sexual behavior as a strategy for manipulating others to satisfy a variety of developmentally appropriate needs. Like,
Okay. Can I just tell you how I was very aware? I have never read this before, but when I was younger, I used to describe my relationship to men in that I know what they want. Because my perpetrators were men, because women can also be perpetrators.
yes, they can. They can.
And they can abuse other women.
Other women as well. Yeah.
But my majority of my perpetrators were males, and I used to think that I could hold my pum pum power and do what I needed to do to get what I wanted. Luckily, I left home at 16, which also was a strategy in trying to separate myself from everything that was happening
From the
to
trauma.
me.
Yeah.
Right. And so that kind of helped me. But I definitely remember believing that what men want is driven by sexuality, and that I knew that I could use this as a way to get what I wanted.
Get what I want. Yeah, man. Give them the pum pum, you get what you want.
Right. And now they're screaming and vex because girls are gold diggers. I wasn't a gold digger. I was looking for love personally. I was a love addict.
Yes.
But there's women out there that are just like savages.
Pum pum is because pum pum is a very powerful drug.
Yeah. And with
Ask
all
most
the,
men.
Oh man, with all the plastic surgery and all of the ways in which you can wine and dine a woman and travel with her, and the game is just on a whole other level. And it's
Yeah.
almost making it seductive to be in that addiction.
Like, it's cute to be a sex addict when I tell you it is not.
It is not. The same war on drugs that was like irrelevant to cannabis needs to be a war on
Sex.
sex. And it's the way that our society takes it up. We need to promote the healthy sexual experiences.
Yes. Yes.
We need to see more representations of that.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
there's not a lot. Let's go into betrayal.
Okay.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay,
I'm ready
so
for it all.
this is when the child discovers that someone on whom they were vitally dependent has caused them harm. The child may come to the realization that a trusted person has manipulated them through lies or misrepresentations about moral standards. Children can experience betrayal not only at the hands of the offenders, but also on the part of family members who were not actually abusing them. This could be a family member whom they trusted, but who are unable or unwilling to protect or believe them.
That's right.
Or when they have a change of attitude towards the person who's disclosed the abuse. And this can also contribute to that dynamic of betrayal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so this is what people even experience as a result of the R. Kelly thing, the Michael Jackson thing. You know, and I said on an older Elephant Room show when it was just an audio version, I talked about how R. Kelly can get away with it because Susie is still serving Uncle John in our homes, and Uncle John is touching Susie. And so when we don't deal with it inside of our own homes, how are we going to hold someone like R. Kelly accountable?
It's very true. And I also found it interesting that you're saying that people are so quick to tear him down. When I'm thinking a lot of people who are tearing him down were probably projecting.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody's in a panic because we're all sexual addicts, especially in our community. And when I say our, I'm talking about, you know, certain phenotypal coincidences. Melanated is what I meant to say. Caribbean. Yeah, African. And, you know, we put this socioeconomic status thing on abuses and things like that. It is not poor people. It's everyone.
Everybody. And
educated, uneducated. It doesn't matter.
It is happening. And some people would want to take this historical and say that sometimes this whole idea of incest within the African population and molestation is because of what happened to us. It's a lot of like post-traumatic slave disorder, right?
Yeah.
So that's another view on it as well.
Oh my gosh, all of it. It's all so intersected and we can't tease it apart. That's how much it's embedded into our experiences. And our community, or for instance, when I was talking about my mother, her ability to label me the way society would label me.
So hurtful.
It's hurtful, and she buys in because my theory that I'm trying to develop is about symbolic proximity and our ability to fit in versus our ability to feel like we belong. And my mother and most Caribbean people, when they move to their home country from their host country, they have to fit in. And they're not really ever getting a sense of belonging, and that's a different reason why colonial powers, and I won't get into that right now.
Different show.
However, that wanting to belong and doing everything she can to fit in is what helps her turn around and judge me and police me the way that society works.
Has done it. Yeah.
And so that's where she's learning that.
You know what's good though? It sounds like you've forgiven. You sound like you have forgiven. Like you understand where mom was coming from.
Absolutely. Educating yourself, looking at your demons, you know, conversing with your demons. You have to get real, and it's ugly. You have to look at ugly things about yourself. And while I recognize a lot of the things happened to me when I was younger, there was at some point when I got older that I just took over the abuser. And I started doing it to myself.
Yeah.
So somebody stopped abusing me, and then I started to abuse myself with the choices I was making. And then people want to hold you accountable because now you're an adult, so you should know better. But I'm still making the decisions based on that wounded child.
You said it like I have nothing else to say about that because you are dead on. Kidulting is what many of us are doing.
Kidulting. I said it right.
Yeah, you said it right, girl. So we have powerlessness.
Yes.
Powerlessness. I said it right.
Yes.
And stigmatization, which you hit on already. So let me take a look at these and see what researchers had to say about it. So researchers have theorized that a basic kind of powerlessness occurs in sexual abuse when a child's territory and body space are repeatedly invaded against the child's will. So this is exacerbated by whatever coercion and manipulation the offender may impose as part of the abuse process, okay? Then we're going to look at stigmatization. So these are the negative connotations, so the badness, the shame, and the guilt, that are communicated to the child around the experience and that then become incorporated into the child's self-image. Just like you said, yeah. So
and these are some of the reasons why, too, betrayal and all powerlessness are the reasons why women in particular, because that's the place that we hold in society, or else feminism and the Black feminist movement wouldn't have happened.
Right.
This is where we hold our non-power. And so when we try to empower ourselves, it's, you know, those people are like, you know, the people like Bill that came after Bill Cosby, when women start to support each other in things that have happened to them, men can, in a sense, roll their eyes, and people don't want to be a part of, again, my proximity.
Yeah.
They don't want to be a part of that understanding of themselves. They want to belong to the group that can judge. They don't want to be a part of the group that is judged.
Unfortunately, but
Yeah.
there's two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
And sometimes you are the person judged, but this is why it takes a lot of, again, introspection and understanding to be able to be like, look, this is what happened to me, and this is kind of how I am. And you know what? Yeah, I don't let it rule me, but it's a part of my life.
Yeah, and you can turn it around, just like Amber Rose, although I don't agree with the idea of a
I ain't
slut
taking no
walk.
damn slut walk.
Right?
That right now.
You don't want to call it a slut walk, but
I'll
in
skank.
a sense, slut skank.
No, take the slut off. I'll just skank.
Okay.
I'll put on some shots, and I will skank. I'll tell you that
Yeah.
much. Put on some heels.
You know, like empowering yourself around your sexuality, it that is a big process, and it takes a lot of healing and courage to find the right partner, even to delve into those things. The support of your partner is so huge.
That is so important because
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, I think the reason why a lot of relationships do get broke up is because a lot of people are not able to share this, and then they
No.
continue to hide it because of the
Because of the
shame. And then eventually it comes out, and you're Tiger Woods because you slept with like 20 men in like 1 month.
Just 20?
Just saying though, like really
I'm
though.
playing.
Oh, girl, 20,
Kind
it's a
of,
lot.
I don't know. I don't remember. I'm not thinking about it. I mean, I've come a long way.
You just went through like 18 different things. So
I know, right?
when we do come back now, we're going to, and you know what? A lot of this information, actually, Dave is probably going to end up putting up on the Here to Help You website. You can definitely go there and check it out to get some of the background information if you want to see this research.
Yeah.
But in our last segment, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some more research that's been done, and we're going to actually look at the after effects of child abuse and how it looks and manifests in sexual addiction. See you guys soon.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
At Benjamin Law, we understand the real cost of personal injuries. As the victim of an accident, you may be the one who's physically hurt, but your main concern is that your family are the ones who will pay the price. Benjamin Law will be there for you, helping, supporting, and working tirelessly to resolve your personal injury case. Call 1-855-899-4878 or visit benjaminlaw.ca and let our family of lawyers help your family.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome back, everybody. I got my co-sponsor. So I'm going to talk about this whole co-sponsorship before we go any further. So one of the things I'll be mentioning at the very end is things that you can do if you've watched the show and when you finish
Are you
watching the
retiring
show
smart?
and you are retiring smart.
I like that.
See how I did that?
I love that.
It's one of the number one things is they talk about mutual groups. So like Sex Addicts Anonymous, which is, again, I've really attempted to have these conversations with friends of mine who have not been sexually abused when they were children. And it's a very tough conversation to have because it's like they're there.
You know what it's like? It's like when a man says he was raped by a woman. It has that same kind of connotation.
Yeah, they don't get it, right?
Yeah.
So
They laugh at it.
When I met you and we were able to talk about this and I was able to share and you were like, yeah, like I've been there, I've experienced that. I was like, this is the importance of mutual groups and having a sponsor, because
Yes.
the person's able to relate to you where you are and you don't feel judged. That's the number one thing I must say when I speak to you, LA, is I don't feel ashamed.
Good.
It's like, you know what? I really want to do this. Girl, I hear you. I want to do it too, but we know better now, Simone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you know better, do better.
Exactly.
Right? So that's the type of support that I get and that you can get when you have someone that you're speaking to when you have an addiction, which is why they have sponsors.
Absolutely. And you can share coping skills.
Yes.
And that's why it's important to have both friends and partners that can support that.
Yes.
They understand the triggers, and so that you can also not feel shame in a love relationship.
Yeah.
Because
you
that area, especially in that area.
Yeah.
That's, especially the way man likes to own pum pum. It's like they're not going to be okay with the fact that you may want to be with
somebody
someone
else.
And I get that, right? Of course, you don't want somebody to be with someone else. However, you have to also know. People are probably like, "Here comes the pitch," but I'm
not a pitch.
It's not a pitch. It's really a struggle, and if you think that there's an aspect of enjoyment when you first eat the whole tub of ice cream, but then
it's
there's
the guilt after.
Yeah. So if somebody is in a sexual addiction and they're also with a partner, it's not like it's fun and games. It's a lot of pain for both people.
Lots of pain, and this is why relationships break up, because there's not an understanding, right? Like being able to share this type of information with your partner, it can be difficult, but also it gives your partner the opportunity to decide, is this something I can handle or not?
Yeah, and that would be true if the person had an amputated limb, and lived with cancer. These are real things that are happening. HIV, all of those things. I don't know how Cookie stayed after Magic Johnson, to be honest.
Because he had money.
He had money.
And she probably loved him. Let's just be real. She was with him for a long time.
Yeah, she was with him for a long time.
Like,
and he clearly had sex addiction that led to HIV.
Yeah.
Right?
So the next research we're going to look at is actually some research done by, let's see. So this is adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse. So this is where we start tying in. I know. This is where we start tying in and subsequent risk of HIV infection. So this is where we start tying in the child abuse and what can happen after. So I'm going to give you just a little bit of their research, and then I'm going to kind of go through some of the things that happen, some of the after effects of this child abuse. Okay, so in their research, they found that sexually abused women and men were more likely to engage in sex work, to change sexual partners frequently, and to engage in sexual activities with casual acquaintances than people who were never sexually abused. And that's just the real, because you look at sex differently.
Yes.
That's something you guys have to understand.
Yeah.
If you have not been sexually abused, your views on sex are different than my views on sex.
Yeah.
You will never understand my views on sex. So how can you judge me? Sorry, I got a little bit emotional there. Because, because people judge.
They do judge because they don't understand, and they also feel their own shame.
True.
People take on this morality that they don't live, and then judge everybody else based on it.
Right, but everyone has some type of addiction. You may not think it is, whether it's shopping, food, social media. Yeah, it's an addiction.
It is.
Make someone lose their phone or leave their phone at home, and you'll see some crackhead antics happening. Okay.
For real.
So the safe sex, and I thought this was interesting when they brought this up. The safer sex message, for example, may be missing the point for people whose lives have been complicated by sexual victimization. You can tell someone, practice safe sex.
Right.
If you're introduced to sex at a young age and there was no safeness about it, you don't get that.
Right. You don't get that.
You can tell somebody to use a condom all they want. If you were sexualized at a young age, there were no condoms probably used.
Nope.
Right? So how do you know better? And again, you're taking this trauma from when you were a child and bringing it, which is why they were talking about HIV with this, because it's true.
Magic.
Like,
we just talked about magic. He actually,
right?
It actually happened to him.
And there's a lot of other people who have suffered from STDs, just because unwanted pregnancies. Like, these things are happening because it's not that, and again, it's painful because they don't want to be going through this. It's not something that you, as much as sex is an enjoyable experience in the moment, it's that after.
Yeah, they feel broken inside and they don't have anyone to talk about it with. And so we all seek to be understood. And when we are sleeping with someone that's an intimate partner, you want to be able to share, and you can get a number of different reactions. Like I've had a situation where I was with someone and I just started crying in the middle of sex. This person's probably terrified. Like, what the hell? Or they might think they're the bomb.
Yeah, it's like,
no, you're not the bomb.
It ain't
I'm in
you.
trauma. I'm triggered right now because you're hitting it from the back and it's reminding me of something. So no, it's not you.
I'm not laughing at you.
No, I know. Girl, I know. Come on. It's not you.
This is why you're here.
Me. It's actually me.
I could never talk about this if you weren't here. I swear to God.
No, it's not them. It's actually me, and I'm working through it. I'm crying because I'm in pain.
Yeah.
And you are somebody that I want to love me because I have an emptiness inside that I want you to fill. Can I just talk, share?
Yeah. Man.
And you're not even the one I want to be with, but you're the one who's here right now. And you're filling a void, and I'm recognizing who you are in that moment, as well as having flashbacks to when I was actually in my trauma.
Yeah.
So that's a lot for somebody who...
It's messy, man.
Who isn't in... That's why you have to sleep with people who know you and love you. Because if you're sleeping with somebody who's just wanting to hit it, and that happens, it's not a good situation.
And it's such a double-edged sword, because if you've been sexually abused, sometimes you can't distinguish.
You can't.
You're just doing it.
Yeah.
You're just reacting, right?
You think that that's what you want.
You think, but it's not.
No.
Post-traumatic stress disorder, thing you just spoke about it, but that's one of the biggest after effects of child sexual abuse is that post-traumatic stress disorder. So the crying when you're in the middle of a back shot, like that.
It's true.
It happens, right?
Yeah.
Cognitive distortions. This is something that I remember my very, very first psychotherapist told me this. And when she first said it to me, I was like, what are you talking about? But she was right. Significant assumptions about yourself and others and the environment and the future are based upon your childhood learning. So again, if a child is being traumatized sexually, right, they've distorted how sex looks, right? It's not healthy anymore. And it will never be healthy to them because of how it was introduced to them. Like, it takes a lot of, once an addict, always an addict.
This is my psychotherapist asked me today, so what do you want to resolve in your life? And I'm like, it can't be resolved, okay? I'm 45. It's not being resolved. But I want to be able to cope.
Yes.
I want tools. I want skills. And most importantly, I want to keep my ideas about value and worth intact.
Yes.
I want to relive what it's like to love myself with agency.
Yes.
And I can't do that if I believe the things about myself that happened when I was little.
And that's so difficult. Like, this is you at 45.
Right.
Now,
Like
a lot of the stuff that we've gone through in our trauma started younger, and then through our, probably from 18 to 30 was just a whirlwind.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And we were just reacting. So emotional distress is another huge one that happens. Impaired sense of self. Okay, because of how you were treated. Yes, like you have no idea. And again, there are so many people out here who are adulting and have not taken the time to look at their demons and truly understand what's going on with them. So, avoidance. So there's some people who are just like, I don't want to deal with this. It happened. I'm shutting the door. I'm not talking about this anymore. I'm going to attempt to live a normal life.
Yes.
But you never can.
You never can. Not if you're in denial like that.
Right? Then there's the one that I think I am probably dealing with the most, and that's with dissociation. I have literally dissociated myself from that side of me. I have my two sides. I have Simone and I have Jenny. And multiple personality disorder is also one of the things that falls under that, and it's called dissociative disorder because you disassociate yourself from the trauma, but the trauma still has a name.
Yeah.
It still has a part of you. So there is a part of me that very much lives in my trauma every single time, especially when it comes to men and my sexual relations.
Yeah.
And I have to deal with that. There's a Simone, that's the intellect, you went to university, my parents are ministers, I'm a good girl. And then there's a side of me that's like, let's go to a strip club. Straight up.
See, and that's because you have that hypersexuality that you mentioned before. That's not necessarily the love one or the emotional one.
It ain't good.
It's just about the body.
That's it.
Bring it on.
Right?
That's
So-
not me. I'm like, I need you to love me. Please love me. Love me. Love me.
And see how it manifests differently? We've both experienced it, but it's so different in the both of us. Like how
Yeah.
you handle it and how I handle it is different, but we can always relate on the trauma.
Yeah.
And we can speak about the trauma honestly, right?
Yeah.
So like, honestly, I'm so happy, LA, that you came here. I didn't even know how much I was gonna speak on this because this is such a scary topic. And for me,
Terrifying.
it's like, how do I talk about this and not have like men all of a sudden like, oh, she's a sex addict? Come out of here with that, okay? This is not, we've been light about it, but I think it's because we've been able to deal with this. But for some people who are dealing with this is a very serious situation.
Yeah, it's definitely, I joke around it a lot, like a comedian would, because it touches a really deep place inside of me that is sensitive.
Raw.
It's raw. It's definitely raw. But, you know, the coping things, the coping mechanisms, putting the tools in place, getting the support, these are all things that can make it easier. And, you know, you do have agency.
Yes.
Just because fate is what it is doesn't mean that you don't have free will. So you can adjust your behavior towards your goal.
You can. If you do want to talk more about this, please feel free to reach out to either
Yeah.
L.A.Wade, and the good thing about it is it's simple. It's at Simone Jennifer Smith everywhere, Facebook, Instagram. It doesn't matter where you look, it's at Simone Jennifer Smith, or at,
I'm Dave today.
but there's no Dave Rankin, at,
Hi. I'm in transition. I identify as Dave today. I'm trans. I'm trans Dave.
at L.A.Wade, and that's everywhere again. LinkedIn, Twitter. If you don't feel comfortable saying something online, that's fine. This is a very personal subject, so feel free to reach out to us personally. And if you have questions, or you know what, I think we should start a support group.
I think we should start a support group, but I also think we should do a support tour.
Yeah, I'm down.
I think we should come to a city in Canada where women and young girls are trying to formulate who they are as a result of their sexual trauma. I know that there's a lot of human trafficking that goes on, and those girls are probably trying to understand themselves as a result of that trauma. So I think that there's value, and there's just something really powerful about being able to look at yourself, see the stuff that is ugly, and still say, I love you.
Yeah.
And I love you.
I love you
and
too.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Proud of you too, girl. We still
Thank
have work
you.
to do though.
Yeah.
But there's some times where we're just like, girl, and y'all.
Girl, you know what happened last night? Damn.
Please, everybody, comment, like, and share this video out. It's very important. We don't talk about this in our community very much. Look out Friday. First of all, next show up, 6 o'clock. It might be 6 o'clock now. Miss Erica with What Matters, okay?
Yes.
And on Friday, guys, we have the debut of the Elephant Room at 4 o'clock p.m. And Simone's back with the relaunch of In the Now.
She's Simone.
I'm Simone. Hope in the 6, 11 o'clock. In the Now 12, and Elephant Room at 4 o'clock. You guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much for joining us. And we will see you next week on Here to Help You.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
When I was 7.5, I was raped. I won't say severely raped. All rape is severe. The rapist was a person very well known to my family. I was hospitalized. The rapist was let out of jail and was found dead that night, and the police suggested that the rapist had been kicked to death. I was 7.5. I thought that I had caused the man's death because I had spoken his name. That was my 7.5-year-old logic. So I stopped talking for 5 years. Now, to show you again how out of evil there can come good, in those 5 years, I read every book in the black school library.